Matthew West gets so wrapped up in the holidays, he's actually known as Mr. Christmas. In his latest book, Come Home for Christmas, Matthew shares his favorite memories and a lot more.
Writing songs with a message comes naturally to award-winning music artist Matthew West. He's been writing them for himself and many other artists for 25 years. Ever since he was a kid going to his grandma's house, Matthew has loved Christmas and all it stands for. With a new book, he shares from his heart what it can mean for anyone. Come Home for Christmas explores how Christ's birth changes everything and what coming home really means.
Welcome, Matthew. It's great to have you on the 700 Club.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, your family actually calls you Mr. Christmas. Tell us how you earned that nickname.
Well, I've been writing Christmas songs for years, but I grew up just surrounded in a family that absolutely loves the Christmas season. I'm a preacher's kid, and so I annoy my kids by playing Christmas music all year round. And, because I tour and travel around the country so much, I like to set up our Christmas decorations annoyingly early as well. So I'm that guy in our neighborhood, and oftentimes our fall decorations are at war with our Christmas decorations, much to my wife's chagrin. But they indulge me because it makes me feel like I get to be home for more of the Christmas season.
That's great. Well, your new book is called, it's full of Christmas memories, but talk about what happened the time that you and your brothers peeked at all your presents ahead of Christmas. There's always 1 year that happens with kids.
Oh, gosh, man, we robbed ourselves of the wonder of Christmas morning. I got to tell you, writing the book was so good for me. I often find that, like, the songs that I write that seem to resonate with people the most are songs that I wrote because I needed them. And you know what? I found the same thing to be true with the books that I write. And this was a book, to be quite honest, that I needed. The lyric of the song that inspired me to write the book says, "How long has it been since you felt that feeling of wonder, like a child wide awake on Christmas Eve?" And basically the premise is, what if I told you the young and the old you are not quite as far apart as they might seem? So I wrote this book going back to my childhood, remembering some of my favorite memories, some not so good, like the one you mentioned, kind of blowing the wonder of Christmas by peeking at our gifts a little bit early. My mom was not happy that year. I'm sure a lot of us have a story like that to tell.
It's true. Well, parents spend a lot of time trying to figure out what will the special surprises be. That's quite a disappointment, yes. I'm sure. Well, you mentioned that your favorite Christmas gift came from your Grandma West. What was it?
So Grandma had 10 children of her own who all grew up to have children of their own. And Grandma never had much money. My grandpa passed away in 84, and they always lived low income. And so at the time, as a child, there was this Christmas tradition that I really didn't understand the significance of it as a young child. But every Christmas, I would get this blunt object that jingled when you shook it. And it was kind of sloppily wrapped, and I would open it up, and sure enough, it was a Gerber baby food jar that was filled with 100 pennies. Now, again, as a kid, I'm more excited about the baseball bat or the Air Jordans that I was hoping to receive. But there it was every year in Mason City, Iowa, when I visited my grandma, this jar of 100 pennies. And as a kid, my brothers and I would kind of joke with each other, behind Grandma's back, "Oh, what are you going to spend your 100 pennies on?" Right? Because 100 pennies didn't get you very far, even when I was a kid. And as I grew up, I began to realize just what that sacrifice was. You see, all throughout the year, Grandma would have this little dish on the side of her bed, and she would put her spare change there. She was saving up all year in order to be able to have something to give each one of her many grandkids. And I got to tell you, one of the most meaningful things as I grew up, the year that I graduated from college, I got another gift that was a blunt object that jingled, but it was bigger this time. And I opened it up, and I'll never forget that Christmas opening that gift. And Grandma had saved 30 silver dollars to give to me in honor of me graduating from college. And when I look back, I try to keep that story close in my heart and in my mind as I go shopping and try to bless my family with gifts. I want to find the most meaningful gifts, and it's not always the one that costs the most money.
Yeah, very often not the one that costs the most money. The title of your hit song and your book is Come Home for Christmas. What's the message behind the title?
Well, the message is more than just a physical homecoming. It's an invitation to a spiritual homecoming. And quite honestly, that's why I wrote the song and why I wrote the book. I'm a preacher's kid. I spent my whole life in church, and sometimes it can feel like Christianity is what you do, like church is what you do. You check the box. And even at Christmas time, we can be guilty of letting the chaos and the busyness of the season override the wonder and the truth and the hope and the peace, all the things that we sing about at Christmas time. We can miss those things if we're not careful. And so this book is an invitation for a spiritual homecoming, to ask God to give us new eyes, to read the story of Luke chapter 2 about the birth of Jesus, the greatest story ever told, about the greatest gift ever given, and the greatest love that any of our hearts could ever discover. I want to see that with new eyes. I want to experience that all over again. And so the book explores all the different things that we can come home to. It also reads through the story of Luke chapter 2 and provides some guided questions. And we look at the different characters in the story and how they were all returning. They were all coming home to something in their search for a baby in a manger. And so my prayer more than anything is that this book will do for you what it's done for me, which is just to help me kind of relive the Christmases of my youth and to realize that I can't go back physically, but spiritually, God has offered each and every one of us a beautiful invitation to come and find him lying in a manger and having the story of this child born in a manger, the hope of the world, come alive in us in a whole new way this Christmas.
You know, for some people, Matthew, this Christmas season, this time of year is a time of sadness. What do you share with them?
Yeah, in the book, I talk about the empty seat at the table and how, Christmas is not perfect. Christmas is not going to be without grief. It's not like we can magically flip a switch and all the pain and the problems and the chaos and the financial struggles and the marriage problems or whatever it may be that has weighed you down this year. It's not like they magically disappear. But much like the birth of Jesus, Jesus' birth was him entering into a chaotic, desperate situation and bringing light into a dark world. And I gotta believe that when we read that story, what we're really being told is that the same is true today, that God promises to enter into our darkness, to enter into our desperation, to enter into our battle with anxiety, our financial issue, our physical illness, and whatever it may be that we're going through. He promises to be Emmanuel, God with us. In the midst of what we're going through, we can still experience the joy, the wonder, and praise God, the peace of Christmas. I love that peace that we're offered in God is different than the peace the world gives. It's a peace that passes all understanding. In other words, I might be surrounded by chaos. I might be in total turmoil. My world may be turned upside down, and yet there it is, an unshakable peace. I can't even understand why I have it, but praise God, I have it. Thanks to God, the giver of that peace, Emmanuel, God with us, God with you this Christmas, no matter what you're facing.
That is the truth. It takes intentionality and time, but it's worth every bit of it. And can I tell you, Matthew's book is a great way to focus on Jesus during this holiday season. I've added it to my Advent reading. It also makes a great gift. It's called Come Home for Christmas, and it's available wherever books are sold. Matthew West, thank you. Great book. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you so much for having me on.
Merry Christmas to you.